Don in London, hello. May 28th, my videos all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. But before I go on with that, I just want to read from this book, The Desiderata of Happiness, which is by Max Ehrmann. And of course it contains the poem Desiderata, which I want to share now, because it helps me. It helps me, and it goes like this. Go placidly amid the noise and the haste, and remember what peace there may be in silence. As far as possible, without surrender, be on good terms with all persons. Speak your truth quietly and clearly, and listen to others, even to the dull and ignorant. They too have their story. Avoid loud and aggressive persons. They are vexatious to the spirit. If you compare yourself with others, you may become vain or bitter, for always there will be greater and lesser persons than yourself. Enjoy your achievements as well as your plans. Keep interested in your own career. However humble, it is a real possession in the changing fortunes of time. Exercise caution in your business affairs, for the world is full of trickery, but let this not blind you to what virtue there is. Many persons strive for high ideals, and everywhere life is full of heroism. Be yourself. Especially do not feign affection, neither be cynical about love, for in the face of all aridity and disenchantment, it is as perennial as the grass. Take kindly the counsel of the years, gracefully surrendering the things of youth. Nurture strength of spirit to shield you in sudden misfortune, but do not distress yourself with dark imaginings. Many fears are born of fatigue and loneliness. Beyond a wholesome discipline, be gentle with yourself. You are a child of the universe, no less than the trees and the stars. You have the right to be here. And whether or not it is clear to you, no doubt the universe is unfolding as it should. Therefore be at peace with God, whatever you conceive him to be. And whatever your labours and aspirations, in the noisy confusion of life, keep peace in your soul. With all its sham, drudgery and broken dreams, it is still a beautiful world. Be cheerful, strive to be happy. And that used to be on my wall as a teenager back in the 1960s. So I'm getting a bit old here. Anyway, my videos, as I say, are all about addiction and recovery. My addictive substance was alcohol. It could have been anything. And my behaviour, equally addictive, around people, places and things. Being in the right place, with the right people, having the right things. Trying to be perfect, and never so. And in the background you can actually hear wine bottles being thrown out by one or two of the restaurants close to me, where I live in London, UK. Not far from the King's Road in Chelsea. And it's a daily amusement to me that these bottles come rattling along, and they get chucked out around 1 AM when the restaurants shut, especially across the road at Bibendum, which is quite a famous one around here. And the waiters, you can hear them chatting, smoking and chucking out the empties before they go up to do their final clear out in the restaurant. So recovery is amusing, definitely, most days, and one day at a time. It always has fun in it, happiness in it, maybe sadness. And like the poem of Desiderata by Max Ehrmann, there are so many things going on in life, it can be quite confusing. But if I get this one thing right, being sober today, the rest of the confusion will sort itself out, either by me helping myself to sort it out, or by me being helped by others to sort it out. And what helps me more than anything in recovery, keep sober so the rest of my life can work okay, as best it can. God, there's a lot of bottles this morning. As best it can, is a fellowship, and that fellowship is AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't speak for it, never can, never will, but I share about it, and how unique, authentic people go there to get sober, stay sober, and remain unique and authentic, and maybe learn some tools to keep it so, and they're called the 12 steps. So I feature heavily on what are the 12 steps in these videos, and also about the 12 traditions of the fellowship, and what's important about them. So steps all about open, honest and willing to change my attitude, behaviour on a daily basis, and the 12 traditions, all about unity, service and recovery, the fellowship holding itself together. But before I do that, the AA preamble on this very handy little card sums up what AA is, as the bottles rattle away. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. So every single person in AA has opinions, beliefs, affiliations, political ideas, belongs to organisations, and that's perfectly right, and everybody talks about what's going on in their lives, so they will share about their lives, their faiths, beliefs, affiliations, organisations, but they don't want you, hopefully, to take on board their outlook on life. All they would like you to do, or implore you to do, is stay sober and see what life offers for you. And that was hard, because once you've been broken down by alcohol, the danger is that we're always fascinated by maybe going back to it and wonder how we're going to do it. How can we stay sober just simply one day and then the rest of life can work? Well, many people have a higher power in their lives, and whether you're atheist, agnostic or a believer in God, the power greater than me is always truth, the absolute truth, and not my opinion about it. Unconditional love and wisdom, which I get from other people. And when I was reading from this, the Desiderata, it says, therefore be at peace with God, whatever you conceive him to be. And that's one of the things in fellowship. It's your understanding of God, or a higher power, the wisdom of life, nature, providence, whatever it is. If we say to ourselves we're not God, then we've got a good chance of accepting some wisdom, truth, love and wisdom from other people. What a relief for me, because I was so confused. I was an agnostic, an atheist or a believer in God depending on my life experiences, and as mine were harsh, the nature of God or anything like that never really came into the equation in trying to sort my life out. I fought hard and thought that willpower, self-will, would be the answer to all my problems. But it turned out to be the least preferred answer when it comes to recovery from addiction, because the addiction says to us, lorries get heavy around here with wine bottles, the addiction says to us that self-will is preferred, put on a brave face, don't let anybody in, sort it out yourself, pull yourself together, give yourself a kick up the backside and you'll be alright. And the simple answer is no, it doesn't seem to work like that. So I had to open up, share my truth, or my opinions about the truth of me, with another human being. And that was all about step 5 in the programme. So May is all about step 5, and also tradition 4. Sorry, it's tradition 5. 5th month, 5th step, 5th tradition. And the 5th step reads, admitted to God, or a higher power, to ourselves and to another human being, the exact nature of our wrongs. And that came from our life story in step 4. And tradition 5, each group has but one primary purpose, to carry its message to the alcoholic who still suffers. So groups, meetings and fellowship are all about sharing a message of experience, strength and hope about what will work, or may work, for individuals, and we may be able to adopt their ideas and philosophies, but we don't become cult members. So if anybody thinks there are rules, laws or anything else to obey in AA, there aren't any. There are 12 suggestions, the toolkit, the steps for personal sobriety, and the 12 traditions to hold the fellowship together, and they are simply suggestions. And this book, Daily Reflections, which I refer to often, for May 28th, talks about equal rights. It says here, at one time or another, most AA groups go on rule-making benders. After a time, fear and intolerance subside, and we realise we do not wish to deny anyone his chance to recover from alcoholism. We wish to be just as inclusive as we can, never exclusive. So inclusive means what is the best way of including people from any walk of life, from any background. And membership is a simple desire to stop drinking. That's the only qualifying suggestion, a desire to stop drinking. So that's how the rule book was thrown away. And it says here, AA offered me complete freedom and accepted me into the fellowship for myself, for me as I was and am becoming on a daily basis. Membership did not depend upon conformity, financial success or education, and I am so grateful for that. I often ask myself, if I extend the same equality to others, or if I deny them the freedom to be different, what would happen? Today I try to replace my fear and intolerance with faith, patience, love and acceptance. I can bring these strengths to my AA group, my home and my office, or in my case, wherever I happen to be. I make an effort to bring my positive attitude everywhere that I go. I have neither the right nor the responsibility to judge others. Depending upon my attitude, I can view newcomers to AA, family members and friends as menaces or as teachers. When I think of some of my past judgments, it is clear how my self-righteousness caused me spiritual harm. And every time we exercise a judgment on another person, and it's funny really, I've been looking after a house and a car for a member of my family, and I don't generally drive these days, simply because I've got my bicycle and it comfortably gets me from A to B without having to worry about where to park it, licenses, toll roads or toll fees, community charges, you name it. And this week I've been looking after it and just switching it on and off to make sure it still works. But also I did drive it for a few miles, fully licensed and fully insured, I have to say, and have been always, so it seems. Well, licensed I make sure I am. But the tolerance and love of other road users seems to be somewhere out there, and not quite where I am. And if you're tootling along, as you're allowed in London, at 25 to 30 miles an hour, it seems quite fast enough for me as I am usually on a bicycle. People just don't like you driving at the speed limit. Anyway, so what can I say about that? I'm not going to accelerate away from them, and certainly I'm not going to slow down and cause them more consternation. But I know in the past that there was a devil in me which said, just get out of the way, put your foot down and leave them standing, because I did like a fairly powerful car in the past. So my attitudes have changed quite somewhat, the way I conduct myself, the way I relate to people. And I've been to the DIY shop, the shop to buy food. I posted something to a friend in fellowship, a chip for somebody that they know which is important to them, to get it there by Tuesday. All these things have been done in the space of 40 minutes, but on my bicycle it would take me a couple of hours probably, and not actually be able to carry home all the things I've been able to do, because I'm DIYing this weekend. So AA has made this possible, a change in attitude and behaviour on a daily basis. The road is not mine. I'm not king of it. I'm a part of what's going on, a network of people using the same road, some with high tolerance and love and some with no tolerance and love for other road users. But it's not for me to judge them. I leave that up to the police or whoever. It's all different now. The way recovery works for me, where I don't judge others, I don't impose rules, regulations or anything on anybody else. It's their job to look after themselves. But that doesn't stop me understanding truth, love and wisdom in fellowship and outside of it. So I know my handle on the truth is contingent on my spiritual connection to reality. Spiritual being living in the moment, now, reality. Absorbing what is going on around me and making sense of it. Coping. That's what AA does for me. It doesn't make me a rule maker or a rule bender, because there aren't any in AA. There are no laws or rules or regulations. There is tolerance, love, and a desire to be sober today. So the 12 steps and 12 traditions. Steps, the toolkit for an individual to be sober, the traditions for unity, service and recovery. And we have the wonderful internet now, where everybody has an opportunity to express themselves as they will, by blogging or sharing on so many different recovery websites these days. Say, help me, or I've got some ideas about what is working. But I like the books of AA, because they were written a long time ago, and they are timeless reminders. So if something is a timeless reminder, it means it holds good in any situation. So this one, Daily Reflections, and As Bill Sees It, pretty much holds good. And the backbone of some of these ideas came away from people like Max Ehrmann, who were writing in the 1930s and thereabouts, sharing their philosophy of openness, willingness, freedom of expression, freedom to learn to be who we can be by the end of today. And this one-day program, phenomenal. And I keep forgetting when I wake up grumpy, because it's not only alcohol for me, and this is common to many people. It's not just alcohol which was the problem, it was a whole outlook. And other things happen to us in recovery as well. So I'm properly diagnosed with clinical depression, which is looked after by medical people. I have type 1 diabetes as a result of living long enough for the onset after a virus in recovery. And I don't say, God, why did you do that to me? I just say, well, I was alive long enough to get it. It's how we look at things. You know, is it all being done to me, or am I just part of what is a confusing world? Which is why I like Desiderata. It says, be yourself more than anything else. So in being myself, I feel much, much gratitude. This book, I do read it, and I've actually done videos of the first 165 pages. And where are we? I'm looking for the promises, and I can't find them now. Isn't that typical? Yes, before the promises, on page 83 in the 4th edition, it says this: the spiritual life is not a theory, we have to live it, and the only place we live it is in the moment. Unless one's family express a desire to live upon spiritual principles, we think we ought not to urge them. In other words, they think of not trying to put or impose our rules on other people. We should not talk incessantly to them about spiritual matters. They will change in time, if they want to. Our behaviour will convince them, maybe, or them more than our words. We must remember that 10 or 20 years of drunkenness would make a sceptic out of anyone. And I was a sceptic about everything, because that's how I was brought up, to be sceptical, but also to indulge passionately in everything. We must remember, yes, mine was 35 years of drinking, and that's not me bragging. I just wished it had been 35 days now. Mind you, I might not still be alive. I might have gone off on some other thing. There may be some wrongs we can never fully right. We don't worry about them if we can honestly say to ourselves that we would right them if we could. Some people cannot be seen. We send them an honest letter, and there may be a valid reason for postponement in some cases, but we don't delay if it can be avoided. We should be sensible, tactful, considerate and humble, without being servile or scraping. As God's people, we stand on our feet. We do not crawl before anyone. The spiritual principles of life: truth, love and wisdom, being able to cope with reality, living in the moment of now, where most people are most of the time, in the moment of now, getting on with life, not crippled by their history, but more informed by their history, not wishing the day over so they could get onto another project, but living in the project they're working on. It's called today. So wisdom all round in the books, and whatever people write or say now or in the future, it will probably be the same message in a different form. because it's the many voices in AA which always make the difference. Not one voice, not my voice. It's the many voices we see daily in meetings, face to face, where we can see what's going on and hear, experience strength and hope from many people, so we can adopt things which work for us. That's how it works. It's not some secret mystical thing, although, you know, isn't life mysterious? We just don't know what's going on half the time, but when we do find out, it can be a good surprise or an awful one. It's just the way it is. But the awful surprise for me, as I learned what it was to be an alcoholic, resentful, angry and completely screwed up, was the way out, was the daily basis of sober first, so that life can happen, so I can start to listen again and be a part of life. So a good start for me today, and I like that passage in the Daily Reflections. There are no rules. Step 1, there are no rules. Because if there were, we would exercise judgments which would be intolerable to other people. It would stop us being sober as we try to impose and exclude people for whatever rules and regulations we saw fit. Nobody excluded me. Sometimes people criticise me and wonder why I'm doing videos. Well, simply to put out a message that it's okay to be me, to myself as well as anybody else. And I know in my heart that a lot of people maybe don't like the way this runs. What I do like is the fact that people can then make up their own minds, go to meetings and get wisdom like I did. And if anybody steps on your toes, get your toes out of the way and sit somewhere else. Don't have to punch them on the nose, but stay long enough in AA and sober may happen, at least for a day. So at the end of these videos I share the serenity prayer, which is to God or to good conscience or a higher power of your understanding. And it's up to you. I can't say one way or another, but it seems to work for me that I'm not the higher power. I'm simply not the higher power. So anything can be a higher power in my life. That's how it works. Letting people in, letting the world in, letting the solutions in. I'm not trying to make everything made and working here, because it doesn't work that way for me. So again, the serenity prayer to God or good conscience as you come to understand for yourself. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. For me, just in the moment, and always, just for today. Don in London, hello, May 28th, 2009. My video is all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. My addictive substance was always alcohol. I never graduated much beyond that to illegal drugs or anything, simply because I was too frightened, I guess. I had enough of a problem with drinking in the end and not being able to stop. So what helped me? Family, community, society, and a fellowship in the end called Alcoholics Anonymous. And I don't speak for AA or Alcoholics Anonymous, but I do share about how I get experience, strength and hope on a daily basis to help make my life possible. And what I have to do these days is put sober first, being sober of mind, spirit and body, I guess. Odd to say spirit, because I used to drink spirits quite a lot, too much in fact, and I was overwhelmed by it in the end. So it's a few years now into recovery, one day at a time. So if I can make life as long as one day and keep in it without worrying too much about my past and having cleared the wreckage of it, I guess, and not being too forward thinking where I spend all my time wondering what will happen next, then I can make best use and utilise this one day I have. So what keeps me sober? Yes, the fellowship of AA. I lean on the fellowship, not on individuals, but I do have a loose relationship of sponsorship with an equal-minded person. That is a person who I don't put on a pedestal, and I don't wonder if I can ever emulate them. I don't want to emulate anybody. I just want to learn to live my unique, authentic life these days and make the best of it. And as has been said by others, the three elements which make life work are to love, be loved, and have something useful to do. So part of my usefulness, hopefully, is sharing a message of experience, strength and hope. There we are, that's my preamble. But there's another preamble I share here from the Fellowship of AA, so that people going to it for the first time or are new understand they need not do anything but listen and see what happens and be a part of in whatever way they choose to be. So I went to AA, I had no clue, and my first meeting and my second meeting, there were 5 years in between, where life became intolerable, and many visits to resuscitate my life, if you like, without success. And here we are. So the preamble of AA, which you will hear at every meeting I know in London, of which there are over 700, or 600 or 700, goes like this. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. That's the only one, a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And you know, for every alcoholic there is trying to get into recovery and stay there one day at a time, there is a unique, authentic story of experience, strength and hope, and what we look for is the wisdom to live life through good choices these days, and not resorting back to drinking, which was always a coping strategy which overwhelmed and overpowered us, and that's what happened to me. So my last AA meeting last night down at the Hut, which is off Flood Street, off the King's Road in Chelsea, London, UK, and it's set up in a round circle, and somebody shares, then we share back, and then we go home. So what happens there is anonymous, and the content of that meeting I cannot share. I can share what it meant for me, and it was a reinforcement that I'm on the right path, that I can live sober one day, and if I have a problem I have 12 steps of action to help me. Action being the 12 steps, and that's about changing attitude and behaviour. So I can change my outlook and my choices, but I'm not here to actually put my power over anybody or try and control or manipulate anything as best I can. Trying not to do those things, because that's what I learned to do. I thought I was in charge, and actually I wasn't, and it was a tough learning curve. So literature I share here comes from the Fellowship of AA. The daily reflections, this one, it's 1 page a day for a year, and as there are 12 steps of action for individuals, then it focuses on 1 step a month. So step 5 is all about sharing our fearless moral inventory with another person and our God or good conscience, depending on what our belief system is. So as I know, I can be atheistic, agnostic or a God believer on any one day, depending on my circumstances and what is happening. I rely on Providence actually to give me a steer most of the time, but I'm not afraid of the word God anymore, and each person has their own understanding, and that's it. We all have our own understanding, and it need not be interfered with. So for today, May 28th, in this book, it says equal rights. At one time or another, most AA groups go on rule-making benders. After a time, fear and intolerance subside, and we realise we do not wish to deny anyone his chance to recover from alcoholism. We wish to be just as inclusive as we can, never exclusive. So the only requirement being a desire not to drink is key. That's it. No other requirements. AA offered me complete freedom and accepted me into the fellowship for myself. Membership did not depend upon conformity, financial success or education, and I am so grateful for that. I often ask myself, if I extend the same equality to others, or if I deny them the freedom to be different, then today I try to replace my fear and intolerance with faith, patience, love and acceptance. I can bring these strengths to my AA group, my home and my office. I make an effort to bring my positive attitude everywhere that I go. I have neither the right nor the responsibility to judge others. Depending on my attitude, I can view newcomers to AA, family members and friends, as menaces or teachers. When I think of some of my past judgments, it is clear how my self-righteousness caused me spiritual harm. And you know what, being self-righteous doesn't really do anybody any good, does it? It causes wars, it causes difficulty, it causes us to think that we have power over people, when in fact we haven't. And in this book, as Bill sees it, it's just a short reading today, so I've got time. And it says here, Essence of Growth on page 115. Bill Wilson, actually co-founder of the fellowship, and these are just one-day readings, or as many as you like, depending on your need. And it also has an index at the back to cover most things. And I'm doing them linearly as they appear in the book. So it says here, Essence of Growth. Let us never fear needed change. Certainly we have to discriminate between changes for worse and changes for better. But once a need becomes clearly apparent in an individual, in a group or in AA as a whole, it has long since been found out that we cannot stand still and look the other way. The essence of all growth is a willingness to change for the better, and then an unremitting willingness to shoulder whatever responsibility this entails. And you know what that's about? For me, that's about understanding what is good for not just me, but for everybody. And in some groups in London now, we have things like a 3-minute sharing back to the person who has spoken at the beginning of a meeting. And often, in the attempt to, I suppose, control the number of people who can speak, or maximise the number of people who can speak, somebody who is secretary has to be very careful not to shut somebody down when they're sharing something which is very important. So although we alter the rules from time to time, we always come back to the basic premise that if we're at a meeting, we can share whatever is on our mind, because if we keep it inside, we're excluding others from knowing us. And, you know, in recent times, 1 or 2 people have come back into the fellowship claiming several days of sobriety, and the gift a few days ago was, having declared their sobriety date at the beginning of the meeting, when they spoke up part of the way through, they said, I want to come clean, I'm only sober 1 day. And you know what, well done them, because that judgment of self not being good enough, not having enough clean time to get to a meeting, we don't mind. You know, the whole thing is about sharing the message and how difficult it is, so we can be bamboozled. So serenity for me, with the serenity prayer, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. It really is just for 1 day. Hello, Don in London, May 28th, 2008, and the time is 10 to 10 in the evening, and this is my first attempt to make a new video in some weeks, so I feel a bit rusty, and maybe I won't seem so connected as I usually do, or maybe I'll be just disjointed like I usually am. Anyway, you can be the judge of that. And as I say, all about recovery, and I'm a recovering alcoholic, some years into the program, and just learning how to live 1 day at a time. So, to start this off, as I usually do, I use the AA preamble as an introduction. And here it goes. AA. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And I've been to 2 meetings of AA today, and whilst I go to AA and talk a lot about it, I'm not a leader, and I don't speak for AA. There are no leaders in AA. It's not an organisation, it's a fellowship. It's a very loose and not close-knit community of people who just want to stay sober a day at a time. And the way we keep in touch, mainly, is to go to meetings. some of us on a daily basis, because we know our spiritual, emotional and physical well-being is maintained by good routine, good connection, and just being part of this loose community which is spread across the world with one primary purpose, and that's to stay sober a day at a time. So why and how on earth did I ever get into AA? The why of it, I got to a place in my life where this despair and desolation overwhelmed me to the point where drink was the only thing which seemed to fill the gap inside. And how long did that take? Well, it took, I suppose, 35 years to realise that no amount of drink in this world, no amount of how much I could put into my system, would actually overcome the outlook I had and the feelings of desolation and loneliness brought on by a misunderstanding about life and a misunderstanding about who I am, what I am, and my condition, if you like, sometimes called spiritual condition. And how did I get to this point? Well, I don't know. Yes, I do. It was a gradual process of not being able to connect on a daily basis and understand what was going on around me, and always feeling like I didn't quite get the plot, or there was something missing which I didn't understand, and I felt other people understood what was going on, but I wasn't. So I guess drink was a good way of loosening me up so I could participate more fully in the social events that we're all getting involved in daily life. And much of what I did in my youth and in my 20s, 30s and 40s for social activities revolved around going out, having dinner parties, going to clubs, whatever. The social occasions were always awash with drink, and it always made me able to be more extrovert, outgoing and involved, and be included, when in fact, if I'd realised, I could have been far more involved, far more included, far more a part of life, had I not had this filter going on all the time. And of course it comes out of fear of rejection, not being good enough, not understanding, and not having enough courage, faith and confidence to keep on going out there, making all the mistakes that people make in life in order to get on, build some wisdom, and understand how beautiful life can be. And I guess with 35 years of drinking, it's not surprising I found it very, very difficult to come back, as it were, and find a life again. The gift for me these days is making life work in the day, understanding what it means to be emotionally sober, physically sober, and spiritually making some progress on a daily basis. So for me, the Fellowship of AA provides emotional, spiritual and physical well-being. It has no influence at all on material sides of living, although many people prosper because they're just able to make sure that life is working again. And some of us find that life, in a material sense, really makes no sense, or we are restricted in what we can do in order to make material life possible. And that's been a theme, really. In the last few days, I've realised that without prejudice, and I mean that sincerely, sometimes we can be judged quite harshly by our inability to work and have a way of making a living. And I say that because part of the reason why I had a 3-week gap in not making more videos was indeed financial constraints. And sometimes people like me on a fixed income are stuck, and had it not been for some support generously given and without any sort of, I suppose, what's the word, no binding, without anything behind it, which amazed me. It completely amazed me that someone or two wanted to help and make sure that I could get back on air. So humble I am in that respect, and I never knew that people would want to do this. So I'm not shocked. I got overwhelmed by it, I must admit, and found it very hard to deal with, and was very reluctant. But at the same time, it was given with good grace, and now accepted so. So for me, I'm learning that it's not all about the material side of life, and thank God it's not. I'm just checking the time. I do the daily reflections, and for tomorrow, which will be the 29th, this is the Daily Reflections book available from AA meetings, written by AA members for AA members. And it says, true tolerance. The only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking. 12 steps and 12 traditions. I first heard the short form of the third tradition in the preamble. When I came to AA, I could not accept myself, my alcoholism, or a higher power. If there had been any physical, mental, moral, or religious requirements for membership, I would be dead today. Bill W. said in his tape on the traditions that the third tradition is a charter for individual freedom. The most impressive thing to me was the feeling of acceptance from members who were practicing the third tradition by tolerating and accepting me. I feel acceptance is love, and love is God's will for us. And as you know, if you've been following my videos over the months and years, that for me God is truth and God is love, and has nothing to do with the material world whatsoever. You may be able to hear the parrot rattling. Teddy, I think, wants some attention. Anyway, he should get some. He's been munching on a banana, so I'm hoping he's all right. As Bill Sees It, another book from AA, page 155, built by the one and the many. We give thanks to our Heavenly Father, who, through so many friends and through so many means and channels, has allowed us to construct this wonderful edifice of the Spirit in which we are now dwelling. This cathedral, whose foundations already rest upon the corners of the earth. On its great floor we have inscribed our 12 steps of recovery. On the side walls, the buttresses of the AA traditions have been set in place to contain us in. Unity for as long as God may will it so. Eager hearts and hands have lifted the spire of our cathedral into its place. The spire bears the name of service, may it ever point straight upward to God. And it goes on to say, it is only to the few that we owe remarkable developments in our unity and in our ability to carry AA's message everywhere. It is to the many, indeed it is to the labour of all of us, that we owe these prime blessings. And for me, I have no argument with God. Good conscience serves me well. And if it is from providence and nature, then let it be so. So in the 24-hour day book, and I just make sure I have time for this. I don't. I have to stop. Maybe I'll do another one. Till then.